Right, there we go.
There we go. We're ready to go. Welcome to meetings in the virtual world. Welcome everyone for taking time on this Monday evening to get to know a little bit about the Deaf and Hard of Hearing Teacher Education Program at York University. Just a couple of business items to start. You can access the real-time captioning by clicking the CC button at the bottom of the screen. If you're used to that, you probably already know how that works. And as well, the session tonight is being ASL interpreted for anyone who prefers access via an interpreter. Okay, so the agenda today will not be all that long. We don't want to keep you, but we really do want to take this opportunity for you to get to know a little bit about us. So we begin by doing very brief introductions of the faculty here, and then we'll do an overview of the program and are happy to take questions. The best thing to do is post your questions in the chat as we go along, and we can kind of address them throughout the presentation. And we can answer those at the end. And we'll talk a little bit more about that before we finish if you have questions that come up later. So you've already heard me bashing on a bit. I'm Connie Mayer. I'm a professor in the Faculty of Education and one of the academic coordinators in the Deaf and Hard of Hearing program.
And I'm Pam Millett, and I'm one of the other faculty members in the program.
And I'm Melanie Simpson, and I'm the Practicum facilitator for the program and a course director, and another one of the academic coordinators in the program.
So this is maybe something you're wondering about as you're here with us this evening is what do you need to have, or what are the admission requirements for our program? The first thing is a membership in good standing with the Ontario College of Teachers with no limitations or restrictions. If you are someone who's not an Ontario resident, there would be an equivalent in your own province. In other words, that you have a license to teach or you're a certified teacher in whatever jurisdiction you're living in. You have to have a Bachelor of Education degree with a minimum grade point average of B in both your academic and practicum courses. And as well, because we were a Deaf and Hard of Hearing program, documentation of 2 successfully completed American Sign Language courses from some recognized institution. That could be a college or a university-based program or a community-based program such as the Canadian Hearing Services. And the program, it's different. You'll hear people talk about it as an AQ or an additional qualification, and technically it is if you go on to the Ministry of Education website. But we're really in our own category with the Ontario College of Teachers. We're very different than most AQs. We are an accredited 1-year university program. There's no way to do this program in 3 parts. That's something really important to understand. You take it's a package, and you take the whole package. When you complete the package, you're awarded a post-baccalaureate diploma. That's a graduate diploma in the education of deaf and hard of hearing students. So you walk across the stage at convocation and you're handed a piece of paper that's this baccalaureate diploma. And that diploma allows you to then submit that to the Ontario College of Teachers, which then meets the requirements for the Ontario College of Teachers qualification that's called Teaching Students Who Are Deaf or Hard of Hearing. So we don't technically award you the qualification, we award you the diploma, which allows you to apply for the qualification from the College of Teachers. For those of you who are out of province or potentially even out of country, our qualification, our diploma is accepted as a teacher of the deaf credential in other provinces and as well internationally. And the best way to think about how the whole package works, it looks much more like doing another Bachelor of Education program than it looks like an AQ if you've already done some AQs. So that's what we look a lot like another BED.
So we'll just go through the courses. This is all on the website. If you'd like to take a look, you can find most of the same information that we're presenting tonight on the website as well. So the way that the program is structured is that there are core courses, which everyone takes, and then there are also some enhanced course components where students have some choice in the courses that they'd like to take. So these are the core courses. And in the York structure, a 3.0 credit course would be one term, so September to December, for example. A 6.0 course would be the full year. So our program runs from both the third week in August to the end of April. So kind of one-term courses and two-term courses. So the courses that everyone takes are educational audiology, 2 language and literacy development courses, Deaf Studies Introduction, Educational Use of Sign Language, and the Teaching and Learning Practicum, which is associated with your Practicum. All right, students also have a choice of enhanced course components. So there are 6 of those, and students would choose 3. So you may choose, given some restrictions, but you can choose the 3 of the 6 courses that are most interesting to you. So they are American Sign Language, which is a linguistics course. It's not a how to sign course, but the linguistics and the structure of the language. Bilingual bicultural education, classroom amplification, which is about technology, deaf studies, culture and community, listening and speaking for students who are deaf or hard of hearing, and teaching students who are deaf or hard of hearing in inclusive settings or mainstream settings. All right, so you would choose 3 of those.
And what Pam was referring to in the enhanced course components, where there are some limitations from those 6 courses, 3 of those courses are taught in American Sign Language. So in other words, the instructors are culturally deaf and they teach the course in American Sign Language as the language of instruction. And those 3 courses are the Deaf Studies, Culture and Community, the ASL Linguistics course, and the Bilingual Bicultural Education course. Anyone can take the Deaf Culture course, irrespective of your skill in American Sign Language, because it's a content-based course about deaf culture and community. However, 2 of these courses have a language proficiency requirement. That's ASL Linguistics and Bilingual Bicultural Education. That's because not only are the courses taught in ASL, you need to have fluency in ASL to understand ASL linguistics. And if you're going to be teaching in a bilingual bicultural setting, you have to have a minimum level of proficiency to put your hands in the air and sign as the language of instruction on your placements, and to use it in a classroom with deaf and hard of hearing students. So that requirement that prerequisite is a level 3 or higher on an assessment of your ASL skills, and it's the ASL PI. We can help people who are interested in that once you're into the program. You don't have to make any of those decisions right now. We're just alerting you to the fact that if you are interested in those 2 particular courses, they require a level of skill in American Sign Language that goes far beyond the 2 courses you take as an admission requirement.
So you can take the program in one of 2 ways. You can take it as a full-time student, or you can take it as a part-time student. So we'll go through both of those programs. So the full-time program is very much, as Connie was saying, like another BED. It's completed over the course of 1 academic year, kind of end of August to the end of April. So it consists of a full course load plus a practicum. So courses begin, again, about the 3rd week of August. There is an the Deaf Studies Introduction course starts the 3rd week of August. And then the program is completed by the end of April, early May, as a full-time student. So essentially, as the structure works so that you are completing many of the core courses over the course of the fall and winter term, and the enhanced course component courses tend to be more in the winter term. But a full year of a full course load of classes. Right. So full-time students are expected to attend class. Usually that's synchronously online, but the idea is you would need to come to class. That is going to be generally synchronously online, but there are some courses that have an on-campus attendance component as well. And there are also a variety of online asynchronous activities so that full-time students and part-time students can interact. And the information is all found on the course website. So Essentially, as a full-time student, you are starting the third week of August. You're coming to class. It's pretty much a full week's worth of courses, and you're attending course and doing your practicum until the end of April when you graduate.
Now, the part-time program is an option that's become increasingly popular for those of you who cannot take out an entire year. It's typically completed in, oh, can we just pop back one slide, Pam?
Yeah, sorry.
The part-time program is typically completed in 3 years. That's the plan, but you may take longer, and it's not unusual for things to come along. People have babies, they need to take an extra year to complete their practicum. So it may take you longer than 3 years, but we prefer that it's no more than 5, barring significant exceptions. And the most important thing to know is it's exactly the same requirements as the full-time students. So you take the same set of courses, nothing changes. It's just they're spread out over time differently. And we will show you what that looks like in a second. It's very prescribed. You don't have to do a whole lot of thinking. The practicum requirements, which Melanie will be talking about a little bit more in a few slides, are the same as well, but they may be a little bit more individualized because some of you may already be working in a school board. Most of your work in the part-time program is completed online, asynchronously, but there may be some on-campus components. Again, don't get too fussed about those things because everybody's situations are a little bit different and we work with you to make it work, but we want to signal that there are some expectations to be on campus for some things, even as a part-time student. You cannot complete it in 2 years. People ask that. It's just too heavy a course load to complete in 2 years. And we, as I said, we kind of are a little bit didactic and prescribe the order in which you do courses, simply because after this many years, we've learned how it rolls out most effectively and is more where you're more successful in terms of how you take the courses. And again, as we said, you attend class asynchronously online, but in this funny kind of way, you're in the same class as the full-time students. It's just the full-time students are coming to class at 10 o'clock on Tuesday morning. You aren't there at 10 o'clock on Tuesday morning, but when you watch the recording of that class, that is the group that you're part of. So we always kind of imagine that you're virtually there, even though you're not on the screen with us at 10 o'clock, you are part of that class. And then those recordings of our classes, you're, as a part-time student, you view them after the fact during the week after that class on your own time. So it gives you a bit more flexibility, particularly if you're working full-time, to be able to watch the recordings in the evening or on the weekends. And Pam had mentioned how there are also asynchronous activities built into the course website. Those are exactly the same for the full and part-time students. So the only real difference is that you don't sit in the synchronous Zoom like you are now. You will watch the recording after the fact. And full-time students join us face-to-face, as it were, on screen.
So there are, essentially there's one class where there is an on-campus requirement, and that is the classroom amplification class. So that is one of the 6 enhanced course components. So you may or may not choose to take that course. If you do, because it is the technology course and there's really no way to learn technology other than having your hands on it. It's hard to read about how to use technology. You really need to have your hands on. There is an on-campus attendance requirement for that when we actually have our hands on the equipment, learn how to work it all, learn how to troubleshoot it and check it, that kind of thing. So whether you take that in the winter term or as a summer term course, it is offered every year as a sort of intensive week in July. So you have 2 choices of when you take that course. Then you would be coming to campus for those days.
And as we said, this is how the part-time program rolls out. So maybe I'll let Pam talk about the first year, because this is the course, one of the courses she teaches.
Sure. So when Connie was talking about having a prescribed order, this is generally the order that part-time students take the program in. So if you think of each course equating to about 6 hours per week of class time. So what tends to work the best for most part-time students is to take sort of 2 courses per term, and that lets you work through all of the courses over 3 years. So that you can graduate at the end of your 3rd year. So in the first year, you'd be taking Deaf Studies, and that is like a 1-week intensive course, the 3rd week of August. It's synchronous on Zoom. So because it's August, everyone is able to come and join us on Zoom. And then for the rest of the fall, you'd be taking generally educational audiology, which is a course that I teach, and educational use of sign language, which is a course that Melanie teaches. And then in the winter, typically students would choose one enhanced course component course, whichever of the 6 that you choose.
Yeah, and one of the things to notice, you'll see there, it says educational use of sign language. It goes over fall and winter. Even though it's a 3.0 course, it's a half course that's offered over the full year. So you're doing classes every other week. Okay. And then in year 2, in the fall term, as a part-time student, you're taking language and literacy development 1 and 2. We can explain all this in more detail if you decide to apply and are admitted to the program. And then language and literacy continues in the winter term, and you take 1 enhanced course component as well. So you can see you have to take 3. So you do 1 every winter. So 1 in the first year, 1 in the second year. And then when you get to the 3rd year, the biggest noise in the 3rd year, and Melanie's going to be talking about this as a part-time student, this is when you do your practicums. So the fall of that year, you're taking the practicum seminar and doing one of your practicum placements in the fall of the 3rd year. And in the winter of the 3rd year, the practicum seminar continues. It's a full year course. And as well, you're doing the second one of your placements and taking your last enhanced course component. And then you are done.
All right. So it is it is a kind of technology intensive course in many ways, mostly in the way that it's offered. So sometimes we get this question, do you need to buy any special software or technology? So we are really, as many people are, relying very heavily on Zoom for our synchronous online activities. So all of our programs are web-based. As long as you have a good internet connection, you can access everything in the program. There is a course website for every course to help keep you organized and to house all of the materials, and so that you know where everything is, which is also accessible on mobile devices.
So practicum, this is always the part that people get a little nervous about. Why are we going back and doing a practicum when we're already teachers? It actually is a really integral aspect of the program. For many teachers who come to the program, they haven't worked with deaf and hard of hearing kids. So we even try to get teacher candidates out for a couple of Fridays in the fall before they go out for their 20-day practicum, which begins later in the fall after courses are done, just because the theory doesn't make sense unless you've seen the kids and what they're doing. So basically, the practicum is something that you have to complete. There's 2 of them. They consist of about 400 hours in total, given all the other activities that we put in as practicum components. And as I mentioned, 1 happens in the fall, and they're about 4 weeks each, 20 days, 20 consecutive days. And then a second one happens later in the spring. And as Connie mentioned earlier, the Teaching and Learning Seminar, which is a 6.0 course, runs the length of the year so that we begin preparing you for going out in the fall, and you go out for a practicum. And then we continue our conversation, and the expectations increase so that you are really doing the job when you go out in your second practicum. Obviously, there are people located across the country who take this program, and we do our best to accommodate people's preferences in terms of what type of environment they want to be working in, and also your geographical location. It's possible that we don't get volunteers in a certain area, and some people have to travel a little further than they actually want to. But for the most part, we keep people within a reasonable traveling range. An itinerant teacher does a lot of traveling in their workday, so we feel that any travel we ask you to do reflects what the job would look like anyway. We ask you not to be a part of seeking your own practicum placements. We have to make arrangements with school boards and go through a really lengthy procedure to get agreements set out and be given volunteers. So it's something that I arrange beginning right in the beginning of the school year. And then we connect you with a mentor teacher just before you go out. So when you are out, myself or other practicum facilitators who work with me will do site visits and evaluations. So the mentor teacher, because everyone here is a teacher who's doing the program, we tend to encourage them just to give you more feedback and be a mentor to you in the role. And then it's actually the practicum facilitators from the university who do the evaluations. Full-time students complete the practicum in the first block, November to December, and in the second block in April. And we arrange, just as I mentioned, each practicum very individually with each student. But that's not any different really on the next slide to our part-time students. We arrange them individually for everyone. We make sure that we understand where you're coming from and what your expectations are and where you plan to be teaching. And we know that the part-time students are likely going to have to take some kind of a leave if they're currently working, but in some cases they're working in a situation where we can roll that into a practicum. There are rules around that. And so we just look at each individual situation and work with our school boards closely to make some pretty creative things happen in some cases. Both practicums for the part-time students don't have to be completed in the same year, though it would be in that third year. And if you enroll in the teaching and learning seminar course and you plan to take that across the year, the expectation is that you at the very least would do your first practicum in the fall. And if you don't, do the second one in the spring because maybe you don't want to take 2 leaves or you're pregnant or there's a number of reasons why people don't do it. It's not a problem to roll that second practicum into the fourth year.
Oh, Mr. Slide. There we go. Okay.
Yeah. So you probably, because you're here for this session, are probably aware already of our program website. We really do encourage you to go visit it. Go visit our celebratory 30-year anniversary page and see some of our former graduates. We're very proud of them. The application package for admission to the program will be available by about mid-December. And the applications are not due until March 21st. So you don't have to panic. That gives you a decent time to be able to complete the application. Yeah, it's all there on the course website for you. But don't look for it for another month or so. It's not there yet.
All right, so we have some time for questions. I think there are some questions posted in the chat already. If you have something afterwards, please feel free to email us at defed@edu.yorku.ca after the seminar. But perhaps I'll just stop sharing so that we can have a look at what the questions are.